This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, welcome everybody. We're here for a public hearing. It is 5:46 on February 9th, and we're here for a public hearing to consider a local law to waive residency requirements of the Deputy Town Clerk of the Town of Canton. I'm going to ask Heidi if you would please put up the notice as well as the local law. Okay, so I'm calling this public hearing to order, and notice is hereby given that the Town Board of the Town of Canton will hold a public hearing before its regular board meeting on February 9th of 2022 at 5:45 p.m. for the purpose of considering a local law to waive residency requirements of the Deputy Town Clerk of the Town of Canton, County of St. Lawrence, and State of New York pursuant to Municipal Home Rule Law, and thus amending and superseding Public Officers Law 331 and 31D and Town Law 23-1 in their application to the town. A copy of the proposed local law has been available for public inspection in the office of the town clerk and the Town of Canton's website. So I am opening up the public hearing for public comment. If you would be so kind for the record, identify yourself and where you live, and we're here to listen. It is a public hearing for the board to listen at this time. Is there any public comment? And Heidi, I'm going to ask you to join me in watching hands. And I am not seeing anyone. Are you, Heidi?
I don't know.
Okay. I do have a written communication that I would like to enter. This is a letter from Klaus Prohm of 14 Harrison Street. He sent it to me on Monday, and I'm going to read it. And then I will give that to the clerk for the record. Supervisor Ashley, Town Council. Regarding the hiring of town positions such as the assistant town clerk, I feel that the requirement of town residency is a reasonable one and should stay. This position necessitates a special knowledge of the town that one would be unlikely to gather from out of town. There are surely qualified local residents who would be interested in this job. It is in Canton's best interest to keep a Canton resident in this position. I'd further like to commend the supervisor and town council for how they have handled the past 2 years of pandemic and related and unrelated difficulties. In these most challenging days, this council has kept its head, continued town operations in good order, and is looking toward a brighter time ahead. Thanks for the dedication and hard work. It is greatly appreciated. And again, that's from Klaus Prohm, 14 Harrison Street. Okay, actually, Heidi, can you scroll down to show the actual law, please? Okay, thank you. So is there any other public comment?
No, I missed it. Fuck.
Oh, excuse me. I'm hearing some background noise. I'm not sure what's going on. There was some vulgarity. Is there any other public comment?
Oh my God.
Again, we're hearing some background noise. If you want to say something, if you could please identify yourself. I'm not sure if everybody is muted. Heidi, could you please assure that? Okay, I'll wait 1 or 2 more minutes. And if there is no more public comment, we'll close the hearing.
Oh, Bob's got his hand raised.
Excuse me?
Bob.
Bob Washoe or Bob?
Bob Washoe.
Okay, Bob?
Well, I'm just, before you close the public hearing, is the board gonna have a chance to say anything?
If the board would like to speak to this issue, it is on the agenda for further discussion under new business number 1, and that can be an opportunity as well.
Thank you. I just think since this is the public hearing, and I think it would be important for the public record, that maybe Heidi can speak to the issue as to why she feels the board should consider this local law.
Sure. So yeah, so I mean, so when we advertised for this position, I advertised not knowing that this was a law. So when I went through the applicants that we received, I picked the people to interview that I thought would be best qualified for the position. I interviewed 5 people out of the 15 candidates, and then I narrowed it down to 2. And then I decided to go with Leanna Moquin, and she did not reside in the town of Canton. But I feel like she was the best person for the job, even though she didn't live in the town of Canton.
Are you willing to, I mean, I know you shared it with the board, but for the public's sake, can you share how many applicants you did get from the town of Canton? And a little bit more about why, yeah.
So we got 15 total applications for the position. 5 out of the 15 were Canton residents. I interviewed one out of the 5 was a Canton resident. And I mean, I didn't feel that she was qualified for the position. The other 4, out of the other 4, one didn't fill out all the requirements that were requested. And then out of the other 3, I thought the people that I picked were more qualified according to their resumes and the applications that they all filled out. Do you want me to elaborate any more, Bob, or?
No, I think that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, unless somebody else has questions, but I just think it's important that everyone got a chance to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I do just want to state, you know, when I was searching for this position, it was really what was best for the clerk's office in the town. And, you know, not knowing that this was a requirement, you know, I wouldn't have advertised, we would have advertised differently, or we would have taken steps before advertising to make sure we were following everything properly. So, you know, as soon as I realized that this was a requirement, I immediately went to the supervisor to present it. And so that's how this all really came about. And, you know, I never really thought twice about it, honestly, because past practices, you know, deputy clerks were not residents of the town of Canton. So, you know, I didn't really think twice of the residency requirements. I just, again, was looking for the best qualified person for the position.
Okay, anyone else?
Toby has his hand raised, just 1 second.
Okay, Toby?
I'm sorry, I missed the first few minutes of this, had difficulty connecting, so I apologize if my comments repeat something that has already been said. My first question is, and having just heard Heidi, there was no search committee or there was no group of people who reviewed candidates. It was only your review. Is that correct?
So when the applicants came out, I reviewed them. Mary and Ashley did step in for a short period of time to look at some of the applicants when she stepped in. I did pick the 5 people out of the 15 that I wanted to interview, and then Councilmember Bob Sanamore interviewed these 5 candidates with me, and we both had discussion on all 5 of them, and I gave him my opinion on who I thought I wanted as a number 1, and he agreed with my decisions.
So the committee consisted of you and Councilman Santamore, correct?
Correct. So at the time when I did the interviews, there was no in the policy, it didn't state that there needed to be a team approach to interviewing. So like in the past, you know, I believe it has been done with just one person, and I chose to have a team going into it. I know that that has been updated now, but when I did the processing, there was no policy that it was a team approach. But again, I did decide to do it because I think that you should have at least 2 people when interviewing.
Clearly, I'm expressing a concern that for a public position of this nature, it should be more broadly reviewed. It troubles me that we are only having one person basically make the judgment on this. So that's a concern. My second concern is I don't like the law as written because it makes a permanent change and removes the requirement of residency henceforth and forevermore. I don't think it's a good idea that we remove those kinds of restrictions. I reviewed paragraph 23 of town law, and there have been many places where it has been done for a variety of reasons. I don't consider that a good way to operate. We should encourage the people within our town, and this law as written, I do not agree with the permanent nature of its structure. It troubles me that we're just saying we don't care that someone lives in the town and deals with our town business in the manner in which this position does. So I object to the law as written, or these proposed law as written. I guess I'm going to stop there.
Thank you, Toby. Any other comment?
I don't know if I should point out that the deputy clerk position is the appointment of the town clerk. Just thought I would add that.
Okay, Bob Sanamore, are you looking to speak? Okay.
Yes, if I may, just for a second. I was actually just going to reiterate what Heidi had just said. It is at the discretion of the elected official to choose their deputy exclusively, and that is written in law. However, you know, I was part of that interview process. There were folks who were there from Canton, as Heidi had already indicated, and although there may be people from Canton who may be qualified, they did not apply. So we have to work with what we have for applicants. We obviously can't give you names because that would be illegal, actually. But you know, we did do our best to do that, not even knowing the law was not on the books. So we still tried to put it in Canton, but it just didn't work out that way. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Bob. Bob Washoe, you have your hand up.
Thank you. I guess I just wanted to touch on requirements for the clerk's position in general. The 2 qualifications needed to be clerk, not deputy, but clerk, elected clerk in the town of Canton, is 18 years old and a resident of Canton. And I guess I think that's important to note when we talk about 5 people from Canton who applied. I would assume that they at least met the requirements to be clerk. But what I'm hearing is they meet the requirements to be clerk, but they don't meet the requirements to be a deputy. I guess I find that a little confusing, where we're going to set the bar higher for Canton residents to be the deputy than we have for the requirements to be the actual clerk. And I guess the other point I would make with respect to residency, there's a reason in election law that the elected clerk is required to have a deputy from the same township. It's because of the assumption of being the heir apparent should something happen to the clerk. And so it's impossible for a deputy who lives in another town to assume the control of the clerks if the need arises, and the need has arisen. We saw that last year where there was a vacancy in the clerk's office, and the town board, the duly elected town board, by municipal law has the discretion to appoint the clerk should the clerk resign. So I guess, again, the requirements to be clerk in the town of Canton is 18 years old and a resident of Canton. And I think it's we're going down the wrong path if we're going to require that the deputy meet a higher bar and a higher set of requirements than the actual clerk themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. If I could just remind everyone that, if you could put your name up for the record on your Zoom so that can be entered into the minutes. I'd appreciate that. Is Bob Washam?
Yeah, I just one more thought while the hearing is still open. I heard that the term past practice used, and I think what I've learned in my 6 years on the board, that the term past practice does come up for the absence of clear language in internal policies and policies that are set by the municipality. But I think everyone could agree that when municipal law is broken by previous clerks, whether they're elected or appointed, that is not justification to continue to break the law or go against the law. So past practice is not, in my mind, a relevant term when it comes to talking about following election or municipal law. And secondly, I guess I would just add that if the candidate pool was limited to Canton residents as required by law, I would imagine that we'd only be looking at 5 applicants from Canton, and the best of those 5 would rise to the top. I think it's a little unfair to Canton residents when you have a position that requires Canton residency to throw in other resumes to all of a sudden compare the Canton residents to. That to me is a flawed search, and it's unfair to Canton residents. And I would agree with Toby that this law as written sets a precedent that would allow clerks from here on out to not have to look at Canton residents and get to hire who they want. And that just goes completely against the spirit of election law and the appointment of deputies. Thank you.
So I'd like to, excuse me. So when I referred to past practice, it was so that people are aware that I was taking the correct steps in, again, once I found out about this law, I immediately went to the supervisor with my findings. And, at that point, we had already appointed the deputy. She was already in the hiring process. It was, she was already appointed. And then when I found out this law, I brought it to the board for transparency, and I didn't want to do anything. Yeah, I wanted to follow the law, so that's why I brought it to the board. Sure, Bob.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt. You can
No, it's
go.
okay.
So Bob Washoe, did you want to say some more or? No, okay.
And when we, so again, because I did not know of this requirement before we started the interviewing process or, you know, putting the advertisement out there, this would have gone differently. Like I wouldn't have advertised, you know, we would have said, you know, a requirement as a Canton residence is a Canton residency's requirement. But I didn't know that at the time. So I never would have done an advertisement the way that we did, or I would have brought it to the board if I would have known beforehand to have this discussion to see if this law could have even been passed before advertising for the position. Yes, Bob.
I guess, since you're addressing me directly, I guess a
Oh,
question for
sorry.
you, Heidi. Just a question for you. In retrospect, do you now wish you had actually read the rules of the appointment before you made the appointment versus after?
I mean, the town clerk manual that I'm still currently reading as I, you know, I wish I would have read all of this before and taken the proper steps in the beginning, but I still haven't even read through this whole manual that I have to know all the rules toward. This is a learning process for me. And then I just wanted to point, like, the requirements. So I helped make the advertisement. And when I say requirements, I'm thinking of things like, you know, with experience being in this office, I was looking for people with, you know, and I mean, not to say past practices, but, you know, we reviewed, when doing this advertisement, we reviewed 2 previous advertisements that had went out for this deputy clerk position, and 2 clerks before were looking for the same requirements in their applicants. You know, I may have added some, may have taken things away, but again, you know, I didn't know of the requirement or the Canton residency requirement. So I think Bob Seymour had his hand raised.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
You guys hear me okay? Okay. So although I understand where you're coming from, Bob, I think it is important to note that, you know, when Heidi interviewed, there's an expectation of a good quality staff member who can, in her absence, take over. I think it's disingenuous to say all you have to do is be 18 and a Kent resident and poof, you're in. I think there's a lot more to that, just like any of us, whenever we apply for a position, you know, there's very minimal qualifications, but when we interview for a position, we're going to interview for this person who is going to best assist and serve the town of Canton residents as best as possible. And, you know, in looking at the candidate pool, you know, in hindsight is 2020, there's no question. But looking at the candidate pool that we had, we absolutely chose the best person. There's no question in my mind. Now, if you want to bring up the issue of you know, if Heidi leaves or decides not to run again, then yeah, in this case, Leanne is going to have to decide if she wants to live in the town of Canton, because then she's going to have to live in the town of Canton in order to run for town clerk. So, and Toby's right. There are a number of other municipalities that have put this actual law in place, but for the reasons that we're doing, finding the best person to do the job, not just because they're 18 and live in the town of Canton. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Heidi, it would be helpful for me if you would just take down the law so that I can see everybody. Okay, thank you. Bob Washoe, you have your hand up.
I guess just one more question, and I guess this would be a rhetorical question. If that's true, if we're, you know, and I don't discount that it's true. Everybody wants the best candidate for every position. I think we all can agree on that. But if we're saying that we're willing to sidestep municipal law where Canton residency is required for the deputy in order to get the best candidate, even if we have to go outside of town, would you apply the same logic to the clerk's position itself and be willing to take it from being elected to appointed so that we could do a wide search and really find the best person? So the contradiction here is the contradiction between having an elected clerk and then a deputy where we don't have to follow the same set of rules. And again, the clerk, the two requirements to be clerk in an elected clerk in New York State is 18 years old and a resident of the township. And that's all I'm going to say for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bob. Is there any other public comment? Again, this issue is on the agenda under new business to have further deliberation and discussion. So with that said, I don't believe, and Heidi, please help me, I don't believe there's anybody else that has their hand up. Do you see anyone?
Yeah, I think Toby may have his hand up again. I'm not sure if it's still there from the first time.
No, thank you. It is the second time. And
Okay.
I would just like to emphasize that the way this law is written is objectionable. And we have the option to change the way this draft is written to prevent some of the problems that have been noted. The law is not adequate as written.
I guess I would just say that that's going to have to get referred back to legal as to whether or not a one-time exception is even possible or not. Or if we change the law, we can't just pass a law and change the law. I think it's a legal issue at this point.
Okay, so that being said, this is on the agenda, and then we'll go from there. So I'm pretty sure we're good to go. So it is 6:13 p.m. I am closing the public hearing. And we need a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a motion? Motion by Bob Sanamore. Is there a second, please? Second, is that Jim Smith seconding it?
So moved.
Oh, okay. I already called on Jim Smith, so a move by Bob Sanamore, second by Jim Smith. So all in favor to close the public hearing, please say aye.
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 Carried. Okay, thank you, everybody. Okay. We are now, I am calling the regular meeting to order at 6:14 p.m. And we do have one agenda item to add. It came in a little bit late, and that's under new business number 5. And what this is approval of up to $25,000 in culvert spending. And that would come out of the DB account. So that's under new business number 5. We're adding that. Okay. Welcome again, everybody. I hope everybody is well and at least enjoyed today's weather. The next item on the agenda is County Legislature Representative. I think I did see Kevin Akers on here. I'm not sure if Dan is on too. Let me double check. I don't believe he is. Heidi, do you see if Dan is on? Okay, so Kevin Akers, welcome again, and brief updates.
Okay, hello everybody. And I will be brief because you changed the date to Wednesday, and I've got the Maverick meeting at 6:30. First of all, our fund balance, our unappropriate fund balance, we should finally reach our goal, which is about 15% of the budget. So it'll be somewhere around $39 million. Sales tax is up significantly this year with all the federal and state money that's been thrown around. So we're going to end up with a little over $73 million, which is $12 million more than budgeted. So the 43% of that will basically be going to the city, the towns, and the villages. On the methadone clinic, I was not aware to tell you last time that the location had been decided on Canton. So we kind of dropped the ball on that. I apologize for that. That was kind of a surprise because it was supposed to be in Messina, and then St. Lawrence Health Systems dropped the ball and the county was going to take it over, but the intention was that the county was going to put it in the Messina DMV site. So I guess, like I said, my earlier apologies, I did not on that committee. I'm not on Community Services Committee anymore. This may line up all right if the state says by October we have to do MAT, medically assisted treatment in the jails. So these aren't addicts that are laying in the streets, that are homeless, that have tents on the sidewalk. These are your neighbors. These are friends of your neighbors or people that you know. Methadone this is something that I brought up as a community service member. It's a little difficult to convince my Republican legislators that we wanted to give drugs to drug addicts. But methadone has been around a long time. It allows people to function in a family, to maintain a job. It would be basically treatments at least 6 days a week that they would be coming in, probably in the early hours. And then on the 7th day, they would be allowed to take a treatment home. I don't think that we're getting with the COVID pipeline as far as goods. I think it's we're having problems sourcing materials to get this in place. Really excited. We are closed on the Potsdam Highway site. I don't know if the Village of Canton is experiencing any less noise in the village now with the trucks being in the Russell site and actually Lisbon. And so this, I think, is really, really exciting. Eventually, I don't know when the timeline is, we'll be building this project out on the Sheehan property, which is over by right next to the old Paylor's packing plant, pretty close to there, and not too far down actually from the state site. But the eventuality is that we will move the operations, I believe, out of the Village of Canton, and that space will be available for either private investment or what, I'm not sure. So tomorrow at 4 o'clock, I'm going to be making an announcement endorsing Ben Hall, who's going to be running for my position as legislator. I'm not running again. We built a house in Waddington. We're moving to Waddington, so you're going to have a new legislator for District 8. That's pretty much, that's the brief. That's as brief as I can get, Mary Ann.
Thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate that. I do have a question.
Certainly.
Of course, sales tax.
Sure.
This started a few years ago about, the town and villages continuing to get the same benefit that we have been. And we all know that there's been some negotiations going on. There's back and forth. And are you willing to go on record as an outgoing legislator that the town will still continue to get the same benefit that has been allocated in the past as far as the formula?
Right. So the best, because we don't have any numbers, it is my belief that the towns and the villages will get a larger portion of that 1% than they did in the past. And the example I can give you was in 2018, the city of Ogdensburg got $937,000, while the rest of the 32 towns and villages shared 1.4 million. So I don't believe that there's any way that the city will create that much of income on that 1% of sales tax within the city. So it hasn't been much negotiations. It's been really not a whole lot of back and forth. A lot of it's come from the city. And I put this resolution in, and it caused a complete meltdown of the city manager. I wish I had done it earlier if I knew that it was going to have the same result. He'll be stepping down and resigning in July, I guess. Hopefully it'll be sooner than that Ogdensburg can get over this black eye that they've created. But that was our intention. When they decided to go from 4 members down to 3, it really actually alarmed me. I wouldn't send 3 people to a grass fire. And then not only that, they specifically cited the reason for this shift change from 4 to 3 because the county was taking their sales tax. And the county is not gaining any sales tax out of this agreement. And to satisfy our 2 members that represent the city, Jim Reagan and Dave Forsythe, this was the proper thing to do. The city doesn't have any county roads. They don't have any county bridges. They'll be dependent on the sales tax and the property taxes that they generate within the city to maintain the city roads and the bridge, the few bridges that they do have there. So it seemed to be the right thing to do. We can't make them use this money for public safety, particularly the fire department, but at least it lets know the city residents of Ogdensburg that we care and that this money is there. Our expectation is that somewhere around $500,000-$600,000 will be what they'll generate, but it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell without the numbers. You know, we don't really know, and they don't know either. And when they state that the county took away the sales tax, that's incorrect. They decided to preempt, but it was because of the data that I showed them of how unfair it was when the city of Ogdensburg has 100 less residents than the village of Messina, and their assessment is almost equal, and they got $2 million more than the village of Messina. And how is that fair? So I continued with that argument. It's not about fairness. It's not about money for the county. And certainly, as some have said, you know, well, if the county gets in a spot, they'll change this formula. It's not going to happen. You have 15 legislatures. Many of those individuals represent 5 and 6 towns, myself with Madrid and parts of Canton and Potsdam. There's no way. It's the same wallet is what I believed. And so it is what was set up in 1964 and in the 70s, this 50% sharing, and that I'm certain will continue.
So the latest resolution that was passed was that Monday night, and is that 50% of the 1 cent? And
That's correct.
And are you looking to have that still be a 10-year agreement with the city?
So
of
no,
Ogdensburg?
because there's no need for a 10-year agreement now. And so it just rolls from year to year. So a board could actually try and change that next year. It's not going to happen. And my belief is it won't change. If the city actually is successful in getting all the 1%, then that agreement would change. But the only, and that I believe that's what Senator Ritchie actually tried to attempt to do for the city, much like the city of Oswego. The reason the city of Oswego gets all of the 1% is that's what they made the agreement back in 1964-65. That was why. And so the city of Oswego collects all the sales tax for their use within the city. And that's not the case here. So it's state law. So we're going to go on from there. So I was surprised that the Republican caucus would agree to do that. I think some probably thought that the city should only get 10% of the 1%. I made the argument that this is what they got to live off of, which is sales tax and property tax. And that's why I brought forth the resolution. They tried to remove all the public safety language, but I insisted on it a majority, not just myself, but a majority insisted on it because we're specifically cited that we were causing the problem, which was not the case. So we could see the headlines that if somebody unfortunately died in the city of Ogdensburg in a house fire with 3 firefighters standing outside, not going in to rescue somebody upstairs, there would be 2-inch headlines blaming the county. And so we wanted to, nix that right off the bat. So we accomplished that, and we'll see what the city does. I'm certain that the pressure will be on the city to fund adequately their public safety. And that's probably why Mr. Jelly is actually resigning.
I don't want to,
Okay.
I'm going to open it up to other board members if they have any questions of Kevin. Bob Washoe.
Thanks, Kevin. With the advent of the Sheehan property closing, are you saying now that there'll be a complete vacancy of the Park Street location?
Well, I don't know. There's plans in place, nothing concrete, but certainly the idea would be to move everything out there. So
Okay.
all our sand and salt that would be using in the Canton area would be out there. All of our welding, we do quite a bit of welding, we'd have room out there to bring in our I-beams and have them in stock and supply for future projects. Same thing with all our carvelets. If you look at that Village of Canton site, I'm surprised somebody's not getting hurt every day, walking around there. So there's about 5 acres there. Probably there's some cleanup that needs to be done. We have that done in the past, some environmental work there. And I guess there wasn't much of anything, but still would have to be done. That would be open to somebody to do whatever they want. But that'll end up the trucks, the backup alarms on the trucks at 2-3 o'clock or all hours of the morning, the sand and the salt blowing around. And I'm really excited about the project. I'm not going to be on the legislature to see it, but that I believe is the plan,
That's a real welcome development, considering that the original concept for the two satellites were just going to be the trucks and not the paint shop and everything else and the sign shop. So that's a welcome development. Thank you.
Well, the other site was going to be at Potsdam, where the town has within the village, and we had problems. The village of the town, I wasn't in that meeting. We were going to require like a 2-acre leach pond, and then they were only going to give us about 2 feet around our building. And actually, when Don Chambers, our highway superintendent, brought that up, I said, "Why would we build there? We don't own the land, and plus that hill coming down. I just thought it was unsafe and congested. This is a perfect site. We have great sight lines, and that we can see coming and going. And if we need to work with the state buildings right up the road, which we have before, we've run out of salt and gotten salt from them, and so mutual assistant. I just think the noise pollution and the environmental pollution from sand and salt blowing around would be a great advantage to the village."
Okay, any other board members? Any questions of Kevin?
Yeah.
All right, well, Kevin, thank you very much for attending, and now you're on your way to Madrid, or you're
I
welcome.
am.
Okay, take care.
All right.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. There is one item that we need to correct from the January abstract. There was a $600 transitional error. So we need to correct that. So I'd like to do that as a separate item. I need a motion to correct the January abstract from 19,088 to 18,488. I need a motion.
I'll motion for that.
Motion by Bob Sanamore. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by John Tyo. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. I need approval of the minutes of the organizational board meeting of 1/13/22 and the regular board meeting of 1/13/22. Is there a motion?
So move.
So moved by John Tyo. Is there a second? Second by Jim Smith. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Correspondence. We have 2 correspondents, and that was in your packet. One is from the Canton Garden Club, and they're requesting donations. They do the hanging baskets. It's just a really good club. And so, they're requesting any type of donations it was to the Canton Town Board. So that is in your packet. And we love those hanging baskets on Main Street. So please consider that. The next correspondence is from the St. Lawrence County District 1 Deputy Coordinator Jeff Hammond. You all got a copy in your mailboxes of this invitation. There is a meeting on Wednesday, February 16th. They've invited the following fire departments to come together for a District 1 meeting: Canton, Morley, Rensselaer Falls, Pioties, Russell, and Pierpont. They'll be discussing the county's drafted EMS plan that will eventually be taken to the Board of Legislatures. However, before they do that, they wanted to get our input and ask any questions and feedback and ideas to come up with the best plan for the residents of St. Lawrence County. This plan will essentially affect everyone. So we have been invited to that meeting on February 16th at 7 p.m. at the Rensselaer Falls Fire Department. When this came, I did call the County Emergency Services to get a copy of the plan prior, and that wasn't available. So I'm not sure what this is all about regarding EMS in our county. So I'm not sure which board member would be willing to attend on our behalf. I tentatively have it on my schedule, but it would be helpful if someone else attended as well.
I don't mind going.
Bob Sanamore going to go? Okay. All right, great. So those are the 2 correspondents. Town finance reports. John? Oh, got to just unmute, John.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mary Ann. So in general fund A, we ended last year with a final fund balance of $293,495. We have minimal activity in January, so we have taken in revenue of $367,000. We've had expenditures of $44,296. So it looks like we have a surplus of 322,957, but that's just timing. On town outside, we ended the year last year with a fund balance of $400,557. We've only received $3 of revenue to date. Our appropriations are also under budget by 345. And so our deficit year to date is 11,242, but that's also timing. The RBank fund ended last year at 87,763. There's been no change this year. The special revenue, miscellaneous special revenue ended last year with a fund balance of 2,539. There's been no change there. Townwide highway ended last year with a fund balance of 256,709. We have received all the budgeted revenue for townwide highway DA, $768,000. Our appropriations are $64,900 to date. So we're showing a surplus of $703,000 year to date at this point. Bartown Highway ended last year with a fund balance of $528,196. We have not received any revenue in that fund, and we have not had any expenditures either. So no change in the fund balance at all. Capital Projects Fund, no activity. Self-insurance, no activity. Special Fire, we ended last year with a fund balance of $808. We have not received any revenue in this fund yet, and we've had expenditures of $98,958. Special Lighting, we ended the year last year with a fund balance of $10,586. We have had we've had $4,200 of revenue, which is $1 more than we budgeted. And our expenditures are $292, so we still have $3,900 of fund balance left in the current year. Joint activity ended last year with a fund balance of $25,879. That has not changed. In terms of the cash accounts, we have checking account balances for the American Rescue Plan cash, which is special money that is on the agenda for further discussion later, $217,342. We also have a solar escrow fund that technically does not belong to the town, has to be used for special purposes later on, $134,266. General Fund A, $626,985. Outside Fund B, $304,904. RBAG, $50,855. Cemetery, $2,540. DA and DB fund cash, $1,562,236. Special fire and special lighting, cash on hand, $198,849. Revolving loan, $46,925. Joint activity fund, cash on hand of $8,422. And library trust fund, $330. So total cash on hand, $3,153,662. But again, keep in mind, there's approximately $350,000 of that money that is designated for special purposes, and will require further action before it's spent.
Thank you, John. I do want to add that we have received our first quarter of sales tax. It was approximately a little over $269,000. That was about $35,000 more than this time last year. I'll be sending the board a full chart of all our sales tax revenues from 2016 to date. And I believe in 2016 it was about 700,000, and now I think it's up to like 1.2 over the years for receipt of sales tax. So that was deposited and split into the B and the DB account, half of the 269. So I'll be setting that, and that'll show up on next month's report as well. Any board member have any questions of John? Bob Sanamore?
John, you'd mentioned that on the total revenue on the fire account that there was no revenues, but yet the report shows 282,500. Is that just a misprint?
That's my error in reporting. That the report is accurate.
Okay. All right. Thanks. I'm just clarifying. That's all. Thanks.
Sure, no problem.
Any other questions of John? Okay, great. You want to do the clerk's report?
Sure. So we have a December report, which is a year to date for the whole year. And we have a January report up to date. So as of December 31st, there was a $1,511.97 in the various checking accounts of decals, the fee account, and the tax account. That money was owed 75 cents to the town and county for real estate taxes, $16 to Ag and Markets, $643.12 to the town for fees, and $852.10 for due to the DEC for decals. When we look at the activity for the year, we now have the picture of an entire year. And so you can see on the second page that the decals account had revenue for the year of $32,699. The transfer to the town was $1,406.84. Transfer to DEC, $31,292.36. In the fee account, we've had revenue from various use fees of $193 for the year, certified copies, $2,380, building permits, $8,195, dog licenses, $4,107, marriage licenses, $2,980. And we transferred, so that was total income of $17,855. We transferred to the Department of Health, $1,643, the Ag and Markets, $680, and to the town, $15,532.71. And I said transferred, it's not totally accurate because there's still some funds at the end of the year that need to be transferred, but we've booked them as a payable, so they're included in these numbers. And that's why we have a liability on the balance sheet. In the tax account, we collected $20.25 of interest, $60 for second notice fees, $5,040 for penalties, $10,931 for surcharges, and $4,935,080.27 for town and county taxes. So our total income in the tax fund for the year was $4,951,32, and that has been transferred to the town and county, or is owed to the town and county at this point, $4,951,32. So total activity in the town clerk's office in terms of dollars, we have revenue of $5,001,687. And we gave to the transfer to the town $4,951,000, transfer to the town for decals $1,406,000, so the DEC for decals $21,392, transfer to the Department of Health for fees $1,643, transfer to Ag and Markets $880, and transfer to the town for fees $15,532.71. So the purpose of this report was to gather everything in one place, be able to see the total activity in all funds. And so now we have a report for the whole year that shows all the activity and all the money that has been going through the town account. There's also a report for January. I won't spend time going through that in detail because it's only 1 month, but suffices to say that we have $1,443,000 in the bank accounts that is owed $1,441,319 to the town and county for taxes, $69 to Ag and Markets, $90 to the Department of Health, and to the town for fees, $2,325, and to the DEC for decals, $13.32. So that's where we stand at year end. Most of those transfers, I believe, will take place in February. So by the end of February, these numbers should be different.
Thank you, John. Heidi, would you like to add in anything?
No, nothing.
I just want to go on record to say that, the tax warrant has been satisfied. So we're good to go there as far as our budget is concerned. So, okay, thank you. Thank you, John. Anybody have any questions of John?
Thank you,
Okay,
John.
great.
You're welcome.
Okay, audit committee. It was John Tyo and Bob Washoe.
Oh, we had a lot of fun. A lot of good invoices to go over. Are you ready, Heidi? Yep. The A account, $33,700 $755.58. The B account, $1,254.85. The DA account, $32,745.59. There was no activity in the DB account. Special fire, $115,400. Special lighting, $587.91. And trust and agency, $17,780.74. And we had no questions.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the expenditures. Motion by Bob Sanamore. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bob Washoe. Any further questions or concerns? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Heidi, if you would be so kind to the abstracts, we just need to add those into the board packet now that they're approved, and then that'll, if there's ever any questions, that'll be in the packets as well. Okay, department reports. Here we go. Let's see. Code enforcement, Mr. McQuaid. Hello. And
Hello.
I'm gonna ask that the department heads please turn on your camera when you report. That would be helpful.
I would love to, but I can't figure out this iPad.
Oh, all right, Mike.
Not my phone from like last night.
Okay.
Anyways, I believe all the board members have my report that was handed in. Briefly go over a summary of it. Due to the weather and other things, no permits through the month of January. I did a synopsis of building permits from 2021 compared to 2020. Building permits were up in 2020 compared to 2021, but the building permit costs that were generated were more in 2021 than in 2020 due to a few projects during the year. I believe we had 6 new homes being built in the town of Canton in 21 compared to 2020. So that kind of drove up the building permit costs. I have handed in my yearly report to the Department of State that's required. And held a couple meetings with Bob Washoe and James Smith with Monica Ryan to do the Canton zoning code revision that we're working on. We have another meeting scheduled for Monday with zoning board chair and planning board chair to get them more involved. Other than that, that's basically it. The only other thing I would like to mention, I believe Mary Ann is aware of it, and I believe James Smith is aware of it because the individual sent a letter or stopped in to see Mr. Smith. I sent a letter out, a violation letter out to an individual, and apparently he came in and thought I was threatening him, but it's a generic letter. He didn't sign the complaint, so it's kind of a moot point, but I just like to mention that to the rest of the board. And that's it.
Mike, can you just explain if there is a complaint regarding code, the process?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Mary Ann.
That's okay.
If there is a complaint that needs to be investigated by the code enforcement officer, there's a form online, there's a form at the town clerk's office, and there's a form at my office that the individuals need to come in, file the complaint, sign the complaint, and then I will go investigate the complaint at a property or home or whatever it entails. It's better to have it that way if we go into court or we go into any other issues with the complaint. So this actual complaint wasn't done. This was a complaint that I had because I did a drive-by on a piece of property. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any questions of Code Officer McQuaid? All right, thanks for all your work, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Heidi, would you like to go next?
Sure. All right. So for the town clerk report, and then I'll do a tax collecting one right after. So I performed my first marriage as a marriage officer, which was pretty exciting. So in the clerk's office, you know, we continue to work with the BAS program to make sure the program is updated and we're utilizing it to the best of its abilities. Every so often when we do a new, when somebody requests like a certified something, we come across errors where the program isn't updated or lining up correctly. So there's a lot of back and forth with the BAS program to make sure that we are all up to date and we can print everything properly for the customers. I'm working with department heads to make updates on websites. I met with John Gray for Gray and Gray on January 27th, you know, just so I could better understand the agreement between the town clerk's office and Gray and Gray for the accounting. You know, we went over the documents that I needed to supply them with. So that's working out better. We went over some of the December reports so that we could get that straightened out and then we could get everybody paid for December. For January fees, we issued 4 marriage licenses. We issued 14 certified copies. We did 5 hunting or fishing licenses, and we did 43 dog licenses. So for the month of January, we brought in $1,777. And then there is a training on March 21st that I'll be attending, and Leanna, or my deputy, will come with me as well. And one of the main topics is FOIL and Oprah government, which I think is perfect timing for what we have going on in the office. And then for the tax collecting, so as of today, we have collected 80% of the taxes, which is $4,454,708.39. Leanna continues to do amazing work with collecting taxes and helping the public with that. She's caught on so quickly. And I mean, that's all I have to report for January is right now, unless anybody has any questions.
Board members, any questions? Heidi, if I just may add, you know, we are looking to replace the server.
Yes.
And that's been a journey. You know, we approved it last year and we're right in the middle of the process. So we need a new battery immediately for the current server. And then ABS is, you know, we're looking to get that done hopefully by the end of the month. And there will be a little bit of disruption with our departments, and then there'll be the rest of the cost for that. So I just wanted to make sure we let everybody know about our server. And then I think technology wise, we're going to be in good shape. So anything you want to add about that, Heidi?
Nope.
Okay.
Just, we haven't set a date yet. So hopefully when we do set a date, it's maybe an half hour to an hour, you know, so it shouldn't be too big of a disruption to the offices. But and I did want to add for the tax collecting that we have paid everything to the town for our collection. And now I will start paying the county what's due to them.
Great. All right. Thank you. Assessor, Cindy?
Hey, hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to ask Heidi to put up on the screen.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, what this is the level of assessment certification form. And for the tentative roll for 2022, we're looking at a level of 86% for the 2022 tentative and final assessment rolls. So I wasn't far off when we were talking about the value that was coming in. The residential ratio came in right in 79.73. and the sampling of appraisals that were done over the summer by the state that came in at 90.30. So when they took the numbers, there was a difference and they were allowing us 5%. So we're able to put the equalization rate at 86%. So, which was, well, we weren't that far off. So we can go back now to the second screen, Heidi. I guess what we're talking about when we talk about equalization rates, how it affects everything, the apportionment of taxes, the calculation of assessments, the ceilings, the railroad ceilings and the exemptions, the star exemptions, the church, all the exemptions, the allocation of state aid, and the calculation of tax and debt limits, and the review of assessments. Okay. Thank you, Heidi. And in addition to that, this past week, there was about 15 age seniors that had not submitted their exemption reports, their exemptions. So I had to go and call everyone, and 2 of them were deceased, and then I was missing 13. So hopefully they'll get them in. I told them they have to get them in by March 1st. And I'm missing a couple of the ag exemptions and some of the nonprofit exemptions that are missing as well. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Okay. Well,
Okay.
Cindy, thank you for the continuing education of what your job is and all the information that goes along with it, because it is very complicated and layered.
Okay.
And I appreciate the continuing education regarding that.
Like I said, I welcome anybody who wants to come up and look at the numbers and look at the appraisals. They're welcome to come in to my office. And so that's it. Okay.
And the tax roll has been put on the website?
What's that?
The tax
Oh.
roll?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. May 1st is the tentative. We'll be filing that May 1st. So
Okay.
that'll be another new assignment for Heidi.
Okay, we got some
Okay.
time there, Heidi.
Okay.
All right, thank you for all your work, Cindy, appreciate it.
You're
All right.
welcome.
Is Stephen on? Highway Superintendent.
Hi there.
Oh, did I just lose you? Let me see.
I think I'm
Oh,
here.
there you are. Hi, Stephen.
Hi. My report's quite short as always, but wintertime is pretty repetitive every year. So, with plowing, sanding, we made it around, cleaned up, Morley, Pirates, Village, Rensselaer Falls, stuff like that. So, kind of the same thing every year. The only 2 things that I had on was that I wanted to thank the crew for going above and beyond while we were shorthanded. At the first of the year, we had 1 person out for a while. His wife had a baby, so congratulations to him. And my position hadn't been filled. So for the first 3 weeks, we didn't even have enough people to drive the trucks. So my hat's off to them. They really stepped up. And then we hired Bryant Durham on starting January 24th. So he's picked up really quick coming from the county highway. So wasn't a terrible lot of training involved. So he was able to jump right in and get right after it pretty quick. So if anybody has any questions, feel free.
Board members, any questions, comments?
Stephen, you mentioned last month, or the question, or the whole agreement with Russell come up, and did you have a chance to follow up on that at all?
I did. It's right about 6.2 miles from the intersection of Town Line Road and Pirates Russell Road. leaving where we stop off plowing to drive to our section of the North Woods Road on the Russell end. So, you know, almost 12 and a half miles round trip. And that's some rugged country up through there. So leaving there in the middle of the night on an icy night, that would be a long ride up and back. So.
And what's the length? What was the length again of the section that you'd have to go up there to plow?
Oh, I would have to look that back up again. I can't tell you right offhand on that. It's a very short stretch. And Russell drives through our section to finish. It starts as Russell, then we have a very short stretch almost at the far end of it, and then there's a small stretch of Russell at the end. So
is it more than a mile?
No, it wouldn't even be that long. No.
Okay.
And we don't do anything with it. They maintain it year round. They do the roadside mowing, gravel, grading, plowing, everything. We don't have to do anything to it.
Thank you.
Yep.
And Stephen, if you don't mind my adding that we did increase the technology down at the garage for training purposes.
Yes.
I understand Tuesday the crew went through the harassment training through NYMER.
Yep.
And so you purchased a couple, like a TV for the break room so that, you know, the crew didn't have to come down here. So did that all work out for you?
Yes, we actually set it up on one of the welding benches in the shop so that we could kind of distance out a little bit more and not be shoulder to shoulder with current situations in the break room. So it worked out very well. We took the speakers off of the computer here in the shop and everyone could hear really well and see it. So it worked out good.
Good. Glad to hear it. And the next mandated training coming up for all staff is the workplace violence. So that's great that you got that all set up. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you and the crew for all your work. Lee. Is Lee on? Let's see. There she is. Hi, Lee. Hi. Oh, you might have frozen up.
Hi, guys, for not submitting a report this month, but can you hear me?
We can hear you, but you might freeze up, so you might want to turn off your camera if you do.
All right, you let me know and I'll turn it off. But okay. Yeah, I apologize for not sending a report. Personally, things kind of got crazy and I wasn't able to submit it, but honestly, there isn't a whole lot of change since the previous one. We're kind of just working along on existing projects and wrapping up some older ones. So there isn't a whole lot of new things to report. One of the biggest things for us right now is the CDBG CARES application and how we're going to move forward with that, which I think is on the agenda for later discussion. We do have the contract for the Stiles Avenue property that we want to put together. We need to look at the work plan for that and put together what the tasks for the grant are going to be before the grant contract can be finalized. So I put out some communication to Bob and Jim about that, about how we're going to approach that. So like I said, I don't have a whole lot of new things to report from last year. I'm sorry, from last month. I'm happy to take any questions if people have questions.
Board members, any questions of Lee? Okay, well, Lee, on behalf of the town, condolences to you and your family.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And the other item is, now that you have that contract, the mayor and I did speak this morning about the MOU. He's interested in making sure that the language of that MOU between the town and village matches what's in the contract. Okay, so just giving you a heads up on that one. Okay.
Yep, just let me know. And the only other thing that I'll say is regarding the CDBG CARES, I know we talked about it at the joint meeting. And I know there were some questions of the board that you'd like to have answered. I did send an email out asking to kind of just refresh me on what those were so we can get those answered so we can move forward, but we can talk about that later on the agenda, I guess, as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Megan.
Yes, hi.
Hi, Megan. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So I had a pretty short report this month. We're pretty busy down at the pavilion. Beginning tomorrow, Master Frank Palumbo, he'll be starting up his karate classes again. He took a pause just because the COVID numbers were so high, and he has a really big class. So he's actually going to be dividing it into different age groups, so that way everybody can have a little bit more elbow room. And that's been going on in the upstairs Riley community room. Fundraising for the 8AA canoe kayak launch continues to be a huge success. We are on target. The launch, as long as we don't have any hiccups, it will be paid for and it will be here for the Russian canoe races. So that is fantastic. Last week, our ice resurfacer at the pavilion, we did a major repair to the horizontal auger and the conditioner. This is part of the conditioner that, well, people see it on the back of the machine. It goes up and down on the back. It's pretty important in order to resurface the ice. A huge thanks to DPW and Ryan on my staff. We overnighted parts and we were able to get it all fixed in one morning on Monday. So we were able to avoid a shutdown of the pavilion. So that was a huge success. And then other than that, I know myself and the rec committee, we have been working on the shared services agreement. We met on that. And a big thing that came out of that discussion is reorganizing the Citizen Recreation Advisory Group. I'm happy with the way that it turned out. And that advisory group will now strictly be a group for myself and not myself and the joint committee. So I'm very happy with the way that worked out. And then other than that, that's all the highlights I kind of have. I know I'm later on in discussion with new business for ice resurfacer, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, Megan. Bob Washoe, you had a question?
Yeah, thanks, Megan. I'm curious, congratulations on getting to host that playoff game. I was just curious, is that something that you solicited or were they just looking for host sites?
So SUNY Canton is they're hosting the Final Four on Saturday and Sunday, and they needed a local rink in order to play the quarterfinal game. This is the first time in girls high school history that there's 5 sections. In the past, there's only been 4. When I played, there was only 6 teams in the whole state. So it's pretty amazing, the development of the game. And SUNY Canton, they're hosting a Ruse hockey game on Friday night. So they're not able to host that play-in game. So it's a great opportunity for us to really showcase the building and to welcome some Southern New Yorkers. Skinny Atlas has been here before, but Westchester County, I think that team's, I think this is the first time they're going to play a little barn hockey. So they may get a wake up call when they walk in. But it's a great opportunity. My staff is excited. We've been working all week to make sure everything's tip-top shape. And Anita, our girls coach, she's got all the volunteers set up, ready to go. So it's going to be a great event for everybody.
Thank you and well done.
Thank you.
Megan, can I just ask as a follow-up? You had mentioned this at a rec committee meeting about the county, or excuse me, New York State looking to use the pavilion for a major court case process.
Yes.
Can you just, capitalize that or just give us a brief overview of that and where we're at with that for the use of pavilion?
So this actually happened last fall. It was probably a month after I started. I got contacted by New York State. And you probably all remember the huge drug bust that the county did. I think it was a year and a half ago now, where they arrested how many people? 20 people in one day. So this is that case. And because of COVID restrictions and the number of people that are involved in the case, they cannot have it in the St. Lawrence County Courthouse. I know initially, I think they said there was 12 defendants, then they're down to 8, and I think they're down to 5 now. It's very interesting because from my understanding, every defendant has their own jury. So it's huge. And they have booked the pavilion for a month and a half to use it as a court site. And actually in the last couple weeks, I've been visited twice by county sheriffs and also court cops and everything like that, going through security protocols. And so it's a huge opportunity for a huge chunk of revenue that we normally would not have. So that is scheduled to begin at the end of April. So that way the floor has enough time to warm up so they won't be completely frozen when they're in there. And they have it booked for a month and a half. So it's a huge opportunity.
And what is the revenue that is being charged to the state of New York?
$400 per 8 hours. And if you go over 8 hours, then it's an hourly rate.
And what is that?
That I believe I have it at I think it's at $40 an hour. Yeah, $40 an hour. Yep.
Okay.
So somebody had to work overtime to cover if somebody was in the building. And that trial is completely open to the public. So it's nice. That was the first question I asked because we would have to be in the building working. And it's completely open to the public. They're going to work with some local vendors to bring in chairs and microphones and speakers and everything we need to put on a courtroom at the pavilion.
Will the concession stand be open?
I'll ask. I guarantee that minor hockey would love the revenue.
Yeah. French fries.
Yeah.
But what about security? Will they be bringing in?
Oh yes.
You know,
yeah.
all of that?
They will bring in all security. Yep. They came through. I gave them a whole blueprint of the building, and they made notes on where the defendants would come in, where the jury would come in, where the judges would come in. And it actually helps that we have a lot of rooms and a lot of closets, and we're going to make it work. So they're pretty excited about it. My guess is, the state saw our price tag and was like, oh, this is pretty cheap than doing this down south. So,
and is there some type of contractual agreement that's going to be signed regarding all of this?
It's just it's a standard rental agreement that we would give to anybody who's renting this facility. There's nothing special.
Okay. Bob Sanamore, you had a question?
I do. Concerning after hours, how many of our staff would be involved in the after hours part of it?
Only one person would have to be there, just as legality. If somebody's in the building, we always have one person in the building.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions of Megan? All right. Thank you so much, Megan.
You're welcome.
Let's see. Linda is on vacation this week. Well deserved. I don't know that if I missed anybody, Heidi. I don't know if I missed anyone. I think we're in good shape here. Okay. I just want to say thank you to the departments too for reflecting on 2021 and actually thinking about some goals for 2022. That's really appreciated. Okay. I need a motion to accept department reports.
So moved.
So moved by John Tile. Second? Second by Bob Sanamore. Anything further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Committee reports. I guess I'll start. The policy committee did meet. That's Jim and I, and we're reviewing the non-contract policy at this point. Jim, did you want to add anything on that for policy?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Other committee reports. Bob Washoe?
Yeah, thanks. Well, I think Mike covered it pretty well. We've been meeting with Monica from River Street on some preliminary concepts before we get the full committee together on the zoning and code update. So we have a meeting with the full committee on Monday, and that's progressing well. Related to that, Complete Streets is I don't know if the town is aware, but when the village did their update, Complete Streets was codified. Is that my feedback?
Not sure.
Maybe. Sorry. Yeah, when the village did their update, the Complete Streets Task Force was codified, meaning that any decisions that are made relative to road work or work within the village, that Complete Streets would have a part of the process, the planning process. And I believe the same intention is there for the town, that with road work, that Complete Streets would be a legal part of that process, that any road work within the town would eventually get run by and incorporated with Complete Streets policies when possible. And then let's see, that's it.
Thank you, Bob. Other committee reports. Bob Sanamore?
We met at the sustainability, not a whole lot there, but just wanted to let you know, we talked a little bit about Jules Energy last time we met, and that they were going to do an education piece, and that was going to be a 60-day process. And originally it was going to start, I believe, in February. They've had to move that back. Probably won't start either in March or April. So that's just going to extend that time. Probably, I think they're looking at maybe June as a start date to look at the aggregate energy piece and move it into the village. So other than that, we haven't met with Justice yet. The C&T committee, that's going to get postponed and moved a little bit. I guess other than that, that's all we got.
Okay. Any other committee reports? John Tyo?
Broadband. We're waiting for the report from MC Fiber. We're hoping it's got a whole lot of information for us. I don't know if Toby wants to weigh in on this, but we've been attending Zoom meetings of the county, seeing where they're headed with this whole thing. And I know personally, I'm on pins and needles of what the McAdoo boys are going to do for us for that MC Fiber report. I'm hearing good things, but I don't know if Toby wants to weigh in.
Toby, would you like to add?
I'll just say that we plan to have a draft meeting on the 17th or 18th of February, and we'll have some very specific plans as a result of that. So we would hope to share those with you for discussion, perhaps in March, if we're keeping on track with this. And by a plan, I mean a complete description of possibilities along with a business plan.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you. And we did get another correspondence about a state survey that's coming up. I did ask Dylan to send that to the committee. That may have happened this afternoon. Not sure. Did you get it, John and Toby? Okay. All right. So that's another opportunity to tell the state, you know, what you think. So great. As Megan said, there was 2 recreation committee meetings, right? And the second one was strictly geared towards the need for an ICE servicer. And Megan also created a chain of command, you know, where everybody stands as far as the roles of the committees. You know, what's the role of the joint committee? What's the role of the advisory committee? And then that chain of command. So we'll be looking forward to sharing that as well. John Tyo, is there anything else we want to add on the recreation committee front?
I don't think so. We have the ice resurfacer issue later in the agenda here, so I think we'll have the meat and potatoes, what we need to talk about during that time, so.
Okay, thank you. Any other committee reports? All right, it's been a busy month. Great. All right, old business. The 12 Styles Avenue property. We've already talked a little bit about the contract and the MOU. I wanted to make sure that that got on the record. And we need to look at the actual agreement and pay out for the acquisition of that property, and that'll be an executive session item. The Michaels lease agreement, there's also language in there about timing, and we need to discuss that, and that'll be in executive session as well. The American Rescue Plan funds, ARPA. So there's been a little bit of a change due to the final rule. So we had a meeting, John Gray, Bob Washoe, Dylan Behringer, and myself and Angela Gray about the ARPA funds. And the final rule gives us a little bit more latitude on usage. Now, if you remember when this all came about, it was pretty strict as to what you could use the money for. That has since changed, and it's called the final rule. So let me just get my notes here. Angela is going to come next month to give a little bit more detail. She wasn't able to tonight for a different reason, but basically the nice change is now there's a $10 million ceiling. And so the board needs to think about, what we don't have to do is go back to the 2021 budget and make all those adjustments now because of the new final rule guidelines. It's very layered and complicated, and the changes just, I'm expecting probably another change coming before we figure this all out. But we don't have to do a major budget amendment. It would just be by resolution on how we want to spend the money. So I don't know if John or Bob Washoe want to pipe in on that. Dylan is here on the call as well. Bob or John Gray? John?
I have nothing further to add, Mary Ann. I think it is a lot more liberal now, and pretty much we can use the money for almost anything that we desire because we're below the $10 million threshold.
Yeah. Bob Washoe, I'm sorry, did you have your hand? No? Okay. No. All right, so this is the continuing thing. And again, right now we have 217,000 in the bank, and we expect the other half of that to come this summer. So it's just going to be a continuing conversation. The 2020 annual updated document, otherwise known as the AUD. So that was done in a timely manner last year. It has been submitted to the state as expected, right? What we really didn't get back from the state is an official, you're good to go, even though we asked a couple times. So once the state signs off on the AUD, then legally what needs to happen is it would come to the board so that it's on the agenda, and then we have to legally notice it so that it's available to the public. So that's going to be coming to you, okay? It's a little unfortunate, but I was hoping that we would get something in writing saying you're good to go, but we didn't get that. And I just wanted to make sure that this was on the agenda so that everybody's aware of it. And, Gray & Gray has done very well by us for the last, well, we're going to be going on the 5th year for the next one. And we've really streamlined quite a few things. And I'm really appreciative of all the work that Gray & Gray has done with this. So I just wanted, John, did you want to add anything about the AUD?
Just one thing, as you said, we requested some notification that it was accepted and we did not receive it. But the way we know it's accepted is that the file to prepare the next year's AUD is not available on the state website until they approve the prior year. So we have that file available to us, so we know it's been approved. And of course, we will start doing the 2021 AUD into that file that's now available on the state's website.
And like I said, we've streamlined quite a few. And so it seems like every year it gets a little easier. So just wanted to make sure that that was on the agenda. Okay, the next item is the CARES Act grant. This is an extension from the joint meeting that we had with the village. And so I'm going to open it up again for further discussion. Again, this is a $500,000 grant that's available. It's COVID related. If I understand correctly through Lee, that the turnaround time for reimbursement is quicker. So what needs to be discussed and determined tonight is if the town is going to be the lead on this application. And so at the joint meeting, I've already expressed my concerns about being the lead, but I am going to open it up for further discussion. And because it was at the joint meeting and not everybody was there, I guess I'll just reiterate what my feelings are. It is my belief that we do not have the capacity, either labor-wise or financially, to take on this grant. It's additional duties on this office, and quite frankly, we got a lot going on now. And so I have not changed my position about that. You know, we also are sitting on $50,000 of small business loan money that we still need to promote. So, you know, we do have COVID money available to businesses now. So that's my position. I'm opening it up to other board members. Bob Sanamore, is that your hand up?
Well, kind of. I guess, and I do agree with you that I think it would stretch us out. And I know we talked a little bit about that at the joint meeting. And I also know, as I recall, Lee, I think you made this comment that you would still be able to manage it fairly well. And correct me if I'm wrong on that, please. But my question is, if the village, if it's exclusive to the village and not to the town, and it's more of a kind of a sticking point, if we don't do it, do we limit that use just to the village, or can anyone in the town benefit from it also?
Is that a question you're directing to Lee?
Yeah. So I don't know. What my
It's
question.
limited to geographic.
Oh, Lee, you're cutting in and out.
Yeah, I think I lost you.
Limited to who the applicant is.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you right, Lee, if the town, on paper at least, is the lead on it, and assuming you can still manage that part of it, then we open the door more because there's more people that can utilize the grant. Is that accurate?
Yes, and I didn't hear all that either, but it's limited to the geography of the applicant. So if the village is the applicant, only businesses within the village can apply. If the town is the applicant, it opens up to any applicants within the town. I do have a comment on this when the time is right. I was outreached today about another potential way or interest in working with one of the municipalities on something we hadn't considered before. Tell me if now is the right time to speak about that or not.
Well, I guess I'm interested in having other board members talk about whether the town should be the lead or not.
I'm happy to go. I guess I'm going to agree with Mary Ann on this. knowing what's out ahead of us at the town, what we already have, the balls we already have in the air, and the amount of work that's going to be coming that's going to impact the supervisor's office plus other departments with solar projects, I don't think we have really a good handle on what that's going to mean for our administrative capability. And I think we just really need to be cautious about what we bite off at this point, given these 5 projects that are coming down the pike, on top of everything else that we're having some difficulty keeping up with at times. So given the fact that we do have close to $100,000 between our bag and some housing money available still to get out into the community, I want to be cautious with our time and our resources. And I don't like to have to pass, but I think it's in the best interest of the town that we do pass on this right now.
This is Lee. Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
I don't know much about the upcoming projects that you're talking about. Are those things that are all you're expecting to occur within the next year? That's going to add the additional burden on the supervisor's office?
Well, I mean, there's some of them are already occurring at the moment. I mean, we already have escrow accounts from 2 solar projects. We're waiting for 2 others. And then we also have the 240 megawatt project, which is going to be an animal unlike anyone in the state has ever had to manage before. And if the Mead Road project is any indication of what we're going to be looking at, we're not prepared for any of that, let alone anything beyond that. So the timing isn't up to us, but it's happening as we speak.
Right, because CDBG Cares is all within 12 months. So I just want to make that point as well. And we do have money to loan out, not to grant out, other than possibly the housing money that's there that we haven't determined how we're going to utilize it yet. But we do have, I think you said 50,000 to lend as loans.
Agreed.
I guess I need to add to what the public needs to be aware of is the town supervisors, the CFO, the CEO. I'm also the human resources coordinator and the training compliance coordinator. So there is a lot of work in this office. And, Dylan's doing a great job, 19 hours a week, but the finances alone, working closely with Gray and Gray, we have a wonderful contract, but it is my responsibility as supervisor to oversee that with the board. So I guess I can't stress enough that I'm one person, and this is supposed to be a part-time job. It's not. You're talking 40 to 50 hours a week, weekends, nights, and I'm just being really raw and honest with everybody that I can't take on anymore. So, John?
I just want to say I support you on this. You, more than anyone on here, knows what you can and cannot handle. So I'm in total support of what you're saying.
Thank you. Okay, so with that being said, I don't know if we need a formal vote. Maybe just go around and say, I've already heard from Bob and John about their feelings on it. I don't know about the other 2 board members, which way you would like to go for the record.
I guess I'll jump in. I'll support your comment, Marianne. I don't have issue with that.
Thank you. And don't get me wrong, this breaks my heart. But, you have to have labor and you have to have the capability of doing it. Jim, did you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, you know more than anybody about how involved it would be. I know when I was supervisor, I inherited part of the $400,000 one. We were in the process of applying for another $400,000 grant that we got, and but I believe most of that was all handled through maybe the St. Lawrence County Housing Council. Fred Hans, I think, was the one that administered it for us. So it wasn't really a lot of work on my part. Most of it was done up in and around the Pirates area. When that one was done, that would have been back in mid-90s, somewhere in there. Well, 94, 95, 96, somewhere in there. You know, I hate to see passing up on that kind of money. I'm sure there's people outside the village Canton that can use it, but I guess I'm not in a position to say yes to something that I don't know what the requirements are of making it all happen.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Lee, did you want to add on that additional information that you were going to share?
I was just going to share that I was outreached today by United Helpers from their mental health counseling division. This is an area that's eligible for funding through the CDBG CARES program. They are interested in possibly working with someone for doing some work to their facility on East Main Street. It is within the village. So if the village were to apply, it wouldn't limit that. I just wanted to let this board know. I think Marion, you were copied on that email as well. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that there are other people and the community reaching out to us to let us know that there are other needs in the community that this grant can potentially help with.
Okay, thank you, Lee.
The only other thing I would say, you know, if it's conclusive by the town at this point, then that will help me and the village make a decision about where we're going to go.
From the sounds of it, it sounds like that is conclusive. Okay. And as in the past, anytime the village is applying for grants like this, you know, I'm not sure if the letters of support are still part of the structure. You know, we've always sent one on behalf of the board. So I'm assuming that that'll be part of the grant process, Lee. You're looking for letters of support?
I would expect so, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda, again, this is an extension from the joint meeting, is assessment revaluation. You know, the village put this on the joint meeting agenda, and we briefly talked about it, but I wanted it to be on this agenda so that it'll be part of our minutes about whether we should be doing a revaluation of assessment. And I didn't know if any board members wanted to continue that conversation or comment, but I think it was pretty conclusive that at that time that we weren't able to do it because of the market, but I'm extending the conversation. Bob Sanamore, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just very simply, yeah, I think we do not want to do a revaluation. Just for the record, I don't think it's a good idea.
Okay, and I would agree with you. Anyone else?
Agreed.
Bob Washoe, John Tayo?
I concur. My wife's in real estate and I know how volatile things are, so yeah.
Okay. All right. So Cindy, there we have it. Okay, so now we know. Great. Okay. Okay, the next item is for informational purposes, the St. Lawrence County Hazard Mitigation 2015 Plan Update. The process was started last year. We participated as a team for the town of Canton. In order to get FEMA funding, municipalities had to participate in this process in case a hazard occurs of some sort. In your packet You saw that what our submission was for the town of Canton. I think there's 3 highway projects that Kelvin at the time determined should be part of this. So the current county plan is a little over 1,600 pages long. So that is online under the Emergency Services Department, and they are accepting public comment until I believe February 22nd. So if anyone is really interested in reading that and commenting on it publicly, you're welcome to do that. The next step is they send it to the state sends it to the feds, and they expect maybe in the summer it'll be done as a final plan and go from there. But I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that we were part of that. All right, new business. First item is Deputy Town Clerk waiver of residency local law. We had the public hearing, and so I'm opening it up for any further discussion, comments, concerns, and go from there. John Tyo.
I don't know how the other board members feel, but I still have questions of the attorney on the wording of this law, and I'm not comfortable voting on anything tonight. I would make a motion to table this.
Okay. So there's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I would agree, and I would agree and offer a second to that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and so now we open it up for any further discussion or comments. Bob Sanamore, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I think that, John's point, and actually, Toby's point is good. I think we need to make sure that it's worded the way that we as a board want it worded. So I think that with Eric not being here, I think it's going to be difficult to make that happen and go forward with it so that everyone's comfortable with it.
Okay. Jim, did you have your hand up? I'm sorry.
No, I just have to, everybody, I keep getting muted, so I just have to unmute because I expect you're gonna have a vote on tabling.
Okay, I guess my position is I prefer to table it as well. I would like to hear more from the public, and then also have a conversation with legal counsel. So there is a motion, there is a second, so I'm going to take a vote. All in favor of tabling this local law, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you. Review of Justice Court records. This was on the agenda last month. Does the court committee want to speak to this? Heidi, would you be so kind as to pull up the actual resolution? We need to pass a formal resolution on the annual audit of the court records or review of records. Does the court committee want to speak to this at all?
Sure.
I'm sorry, Bob Sanamore?
Yes. Yes. I would just like to say that, when John and I went in there and reviewed everything in the court system and the justice court, I thought everything was very, very, very well done, very organized. T's were crossed and I's were dotted. I didn't really have any issues at all with anything and the way everything was handled. So I was very happy with what I found.
Okay.
I was very impressed as well. Mark's got a real handle on things up there.
Okay, so again, a specific checklist has to be completed. It has been completed by the committee, and we need to pass this resolution approving and entering into the minutes the annual checklist. And once this is passed, then I need to send everything to New York State, the unified court system as well. So I need a motion to pass this resolution.
I'll make a motion to pass this resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm going to take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Can there be a comment on this before the vote?
Yep.
Marianne?
Yeah, I missed that step. So any further discussion or comments?
I have no doubt that what John and Bob reviewed is up to snuff, like they mentioned. But I guess the point I'd like to make on this, just the same way that we are having the books reconciled and the checking accounts reconciled in the clerk's office, and similarly with the supervisor's office. I see this annual review of the justice court, since they handle money. I think that I would like to see us have a conversation and consider having this reviewed by folks outside. We're fortunate right now. We have Bob on the board who has an MBA, but not all board members have those sorts of credentials and chops. And so I just think that we have 3 of these audits to do: the clerk's office, the supervisor's office, and justice court. And everything we've been told by our attorney is that board members are not auditors, and that we would be in a much better position as board members if we had third-party review of these 3 entities and we signed off on that, as opposed to doing our own audits, because the audits are only as good as the questions that are asked, and a lot of us don't know what questions to ask. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Bob. Any further comments?
And I agree with that, and only because I've been down that road. I've audited justice court a number of times, and you guys are absolutely right. Mark does a very, very good job. His books seem to be, you ask him a question, he has the answer for you. And I will vote in favor of this, but I'm uncomfortable with it for the same reasons Bob said. I've also audited other departments where I've had it thrown back in my face by the state. But again, as Bob said, the information that you ask for is the information you get. And when you don't know enough to ask for some things, that's where you can get caught. And I've been caught. So do agree. I certainly take care of my own business with no problem. But when I've got rely on somebody else to show me what I need to have, or to answer the questions I need answered, and then sign off that I've looked at these books and to me they're correct. I'm not comfortable doing that. So, but I will, again, I've done this before. I've agreed to them. It's not something that I've ever been comfortable with. And so that's where we're at. Okay.
And I'll just add on that, if I may. I too was called out for signing one of these, thinking that the information that was supplied to me that I could trust, only to find out that once the comptroller came in and actually looked at things, it was thrown in my face that, hey, you signed off on this. You're part of this now too. And that was not a pleasant experience. And I wanted to operate on good faith, and we did when we did that, but it only came back to be thrown in our face once actually somebody who came in to really review it with a fine tooth and comb. So I just think that there's, board level audit, and then there's serious audit. And I think we ought to be considering serious audit for all departments. And I think, I'm hearing Heidi now understand how having Gray and Gray audit, or not audit, but reconcile her books, gives her another level of assurity, and the same for the town board. And I don't see why we don't have the same process for all 3 entities where we're required to do this. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, having said that, we do have a motion. We have a second to pass this resolution, so I'm going to take a vote now. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Carried. Okay, thank you, Heidi. You can take that down. Appreciate it. Okay, so we'll send that off to New York State and get a copy to the Justice Court as well after Heidi certifies that resolution. The next item on the agenda is the joint recreation Zamboni issue. Maybe I should have called it an ice surfer issue, right? And I did ask Megan, if she would give a little presentation as to the history of the ice surfacers down there. And I'm certain John Tyo can add to that. And then where we're at now. And this is just for informational purposes only tonight, for the board to consider the information. Okay, so Megan.
So yes, so in answer to your question, Marianne, a Zamboni is like a Kleenex to a tissue.
Okay.
So like Marianne mentioned, so my recreation committee, they asked me to present information really as it pertains to an electric versus a propane surfacer. And I'm presenting obviously to you tonight, and next week I'll be presenting to the village board. So I know I sent out a whole packet of PDF file that had everything included. So really the main one, obviously the first copy that really breaks down the long-term cost of a new ice resurfacer. So there's two brands, there's a Zamboni and there's an Olympia. We actually own one of both brands. So we've worked with both. So starting from the top of the form, I'm just going to go through the form so that way everybody kind of knows what numbers I use. So that way everybody is kind of on the same page. So starting from the top, currently like I said, we have ownership of a 1986 Olympia brand propane ice resurfacer. That's the one that we're currently using. The machine is obviously 36 years old. It's functioning. Even with a new machine, we'll continue to keep that machine as a backup. It's our backup. It's also, well, not this year, but it's also the backup to SUNY Canton and also St. Lawrence in case they go down. Additionally, we do own a Zamboni brand electric resurfacer that was gifted to us from St. Lawrence. John probably knows the exact month that it showed up, but for my research, I believe we got the machine in 2014, since the last service records at St. Lawrence were August of 2013. That machine is a 1999 model. And in September 2009, that machine received a brand new electric motor that was done at St. Lawrence. Since having the machine, the last 3 ice seasons prior to me arriving, it has died in the middle of the ice season, and the Olympia has been brought down out of the DPW barn to service the community. And it also died at the beginning of this season, which is why we're not using it. Looking at the age of the machines there at the top, you can see the lifespan of a propane versus an electric model. Also through my research, talking with both Olympia and Zamboni, electric machines, they do not last longer than 20 years. And so knowing the lifespan, the big chart below 40-year plan, that's why I use 40 years as a benchmark, because the propane one's 36. If we baby it as a backup, you know, it could maybe make it to 40, more as a backup, because it's nice having a backup. So that's why I use 40 in the big part numbers below. Next on the page, I break down all the price of the new machines right now. So we have Olympia and Zamboni. They both have electric options. They both have propane options. You will see 2 different types of electric models. Because there's some new technology out there. Traditionally, Zambonis have been ran on lead acid battery when they are electric. And the newest technology is lithium ion batteries. Olympia does have a lithium ion model. I did not include that in the chart because traditionally Olympia makes a better propane model and Zamboni makes a better electric model. That's kind of their bread and butter. They both cross over, but they really kind of have their specialties. In the packet and the exact lithium electric quote, there is a lithium ion battery upgrade that you can see the price there if you're interested. So a lot of you are probably going to ask, what's the difference between lead acid and lithium ion battery? So lead acid, like I said, they are traditionally used in ice resurfacers. Lead acid requires daily, weekly, and monthly battery maintenance. This requires staff to open up battery cells, which is obviously very dangerous. They deal with sulfuric acid inside the batteries because they always have to maintain proper water levels inside of the batteries. Another thing to consider, while batteries are charged, they actually create an explosive mixture of hydrogen and oxygen, and that gas can be released when you open up the cells. It's very rare, but these gases can actually cause the battery to explode. It is also important to note that a standard electric resurfacer has 24 individual batteries. This isn't just one battery that's in your car. So you have to maintain 24 batteries perfectly to make this machine run. Lithium ion batteries, they eliminate battery maintenance completely. They're sealed and they take away the maintenance issue, and they also, by doing that, they create a safer working environment for your staff. The difference of the batteries, they also spill over into how you charge them. Lead acids, they are very picky. These batteries like to be drained completely to zero before you fully recharge them. Speaking to Zamboni service reps, right out of the box, a lead acid has a lifespan of 10 years if you follow the ideal situations. The first is you are in operation for 12 months out of the year. If you're in a 6-month operation like we are, your lifespan immediately goes down to 7 years. The second ideal situation is that the battery is drained completely to zero before you recharge to full. And the third is that after you use the machine, it actually sits for 8 hours, not being charged. It sits for 8 hours to cool the machine. Then you charge it for 8 hours, and then you let it sit for 8 hours, which allows the batteries to cool before you use it. And then you use it for 8 hours. Colleges, universities, they can get pretty close to that because they don't have a full schedule like we do at the pavilion. Pretty much at the pavilion, it is impossible for us to achieve number 2 and 3 because on a Friday evening and the batteries are at half charge, there's no question that we have to plug in the machine because on Saturday, we have 12 to 16 hours of scheduled ice time that we have to make it through. And the same scenario goes for a Saturday night. We can't have the machine sit for 8 hours. We have to charge it because we have another 14 to 16 hours of scheduled ice time on Sunday. Lithium ions, they are a dream after I listed all that about traditional lead acid. They take away the maintenance. However, they are brand new to the ice resurfacer world. The 10-year lifespan on them is a guess from the manufacturers when they compare to other manufacturing machines that are the similar size of a Zamboni. That being said, Potsdam just received their brand new lithium ion yesterday, and they waited a year and a half to get it. They had a battle getting that. It was actually halfway to Potsdam, and they had a driver issue, turn around and go back to California. So they've had a headache getting it. So I know Trey is very excited over there to get it. Lithium ions, they are as simple as plugging in your cell phone. So these batteries like to be fully charged all the time. We can come off the ice and immediately plug it in. We don't have to worry about hindering our battery life. So to the right of the base price is a pre-negotiated discount price for municipalities that's available through Sourcewell. Actually, looking up through Sourcewell, both the town and the village already have accounts set up with it. I do need to update that information because that discount is only available through Zamboni and not Olympia. So you can cross out the discount for Olympia as that pertains to Sourcewell. And then below the machine prices, I've included preventative maintenance programs. Those are only for the electric machines and only for Zamboni. That goes through our regional Zamboni rep out of New Jersey. There's two options. The benefit of the full preventative maintenance program is we send our machine down to New Jersey for the summer, and they do all basic repairs that we need. They replace hydraulic hoses, wiring, everything's included in the price. This is a program that SUNY Canton and both SUNY Potsdam were going to do right before COVID hit, and obviously their campuses got shut down. But they are actively talking about it right now to start that up again in the summer. St. Lawrence uses the bottom number, which is a yearly maintenance program where they pay for somebody to come up to St. Lawrence and look at their machine. That is a base price. Any mechanical work done over that, you have to pay for. So there's pluses and minuses to both. The reason for the maintenance programs is because electric models, my staff and DPW cannot work on them. You need a specialized mechanic because you're working with an electric motor. That's the reason for the maintenance program. So that way we really take care of that machine because it's a long-term investment and we want to make sure that we take care of it properly. Next is the big section. This is where it breaks down the overall cost of the machines over a 40-year period. Again, I chose 40 years because this is the anticipated lifespan of a propane model. So the first two lines, they feature a traditional lead acid electric machine, one with the preventative maintenance program costs, and then one with just the basic yearly maintenance. And then line 3 and 4 are the same as line of the first two, just with a lithium ion machine. And then line 5 is just an Olympia propane model. When we move left to right, obviously a 2022 machine is the cost of a new machine today. A machine lifespan, 20 years for the electric, 40 for a propane. Maintenance costs, again, preventative maintenance options are listed for the electric. And for the propane models, I use the repair costs that we've spent so far this year on the Olympia. And that figure does include the $800 emergency repair that we did last week. So before that, you can do the math. I think we spent $200 to do an oil change and make sure the machine was ready for the season. Obviously, the major difference between maintenance costs is because a propane model, it's something that my staff can work on. It's something DPW can work on. It's as simple as working on a truck or a tractor. We can go down to Napa and get parts that work. We can go to Casanova and get tractor parts that work. It's a lot more convenient. Still moving across the page, battery fuel costs. For lead acid, it's $40,000 because after 5 years, you need to be prepared to replace the batteries. You may get lucky and get a couple extra years, but after 5, you need to be ready for it. Lithium ion, it's planned for 10 years, but again, it's untested, so it could be more frequent. And then the $25,000 for propane is the monthly cost that I've using the monthly cost that I've used so far this year on propane fuel. So you can see the difference in fuel or battery costs that you have. New machine needed, that's there because after 20 years, you're going to need a new electric machine. And then obviously the total cost for 40 years, it's pretty self-explanatory. Electric models, $500,000, propane, just over 200,000. I know the committee also asked me to include the lease options that are there. I only included the prices for an electric machine on a lease because it's not logically, it doesn't make sense to lease a propane just because the maintenance costs are so much higher with an electric. As for most purchases, there's positives and negatives to both. Myself, my staff, I know I've talked to the entire DPW crew. We've agreed on what resurfacer works for us. That's a propane model for long-term, but there's a reason why the machine we have now is still running. We can complete basic tasks on it. Major repairs, we can take care of it with our own resources. Really having the convenience to drive up to DPW, even when it's, -30 out, to really be able to just drive up there and take care of basic repairs in the morning, and we can drive back in the afternoon and still serve our community. You can't put a price tag on that. It's fantastic. And really last week was a perfect example. We had parts overnighted. We drove up Monday morning. The part was fixed by lunch. I went out and bought the guy's pizza. And it was great because we were able to drive it back and the community was unaffected by it. I know there is a concern about propane, obviously, because we're inside a building. So also in that packet, I included a signed executive order from the California EPA and the Air Resources Board, which states that the maximum allowed exhaust standards is 20.6 grams per kilowatt hour. I know that's a lot of scientific language. That as it pertains to carbon monoxide, that's the gas that comes out from propane. And the engines used in the propane resurfacer model is certified at 7.0. So you can see the difference. And that is for a Zamboni model. Zamboni is headquartered in California, so they have very strict emission rules as it comes to this. Now, those numbers, it actually measures the tailpipe exhaust. It's a little bit different when you talk about air quality. And the United States Ice Rink Association, they recommend a maximum of 20 parts per million when measuring carbon monoxide. And New York State, they have had a piece of legislation in discussion since 2012. And they, in that legislation, they only require a minimum of 30 parts per million. Recently, a couple days ago, yesterday, I can't remember, with the help of some fire department equipment and Mayor Dalton, we actually tested our propane machine. Keep in mind, it was built in 1986. So a staff member went out, resurfaced the ice. We measured carbon monoxide levels throughout the entire building, and our average was 19.75 parts per million. So that was great to know that we're under the recommended for the USA Rinks Association. For fun, we wanted to immediately test it again. So staff went out, dumped the snow, came right back out. We did the back to back, and that's when our levels spiked. Went up. We were still below OSHA standards. We were still below 50 parts per million, which is an OSHA standard. But that information is great to know because on a normal day, you do one cut at a time, and that keeps our carbon monoxide with a 1980 machine at safe levels for our community and for our staff to enjoy the pavilion. So it's nice to have that certification to know that we have a safe environment for everybody to come to. Along with that, obviously, there's been major emission improvements in propane models since 1980. In fact, I found out that until 2004, there was actually no certifications or emission standards on ice resurfacers. And then additionally, all new propane machines, they come with emission detectors built into the machines to make sure that everything is running flawlessly. So you don't have to worry about a machine not working properly. An alarm will function and you will know that you have an emission problem. We also have the benefit of having 2 direct exhaust fans on both the north and south side of the pavilion. A lot of ice rinks like St. Lawrence, they don't have that benefit. They could never have a fueled ice resurfacer in their facility really again, because they don't have direct exhaust. I know that's a lot of information, but I know it's a huge decision and I wanted everybody to understand the numbers and where I was coming from. But like Marianne said, the goal of this presentation was just to provide you with information as much as I can. You know, it's a huge decision, but once the town and the village kind of figure out where they want to go, then I can really get some hard numbers down, because again, these are just the base prices. And then, you know, some of them, like Olympia, they include some functions, and Zamboni doesn't include other functions in their base prices. So once we get some hard numbers, then we can go from there. But I know, you know, these resurfacers, they don't sit in a car lot. So we're looking at a year to 14 months in advance. And just for information purposes, so a Zamboni machine payment is not due until delivery. And as a municipality, we have the benefit of putting either no money down with a purchase order, or we can pay $25,000 deposit. For the Olympia, I found out that they require a 20% down payment as soon as you order it. And then the balance is due on delivery. So you can figure out the numbers there. A propane model, 20% down, $21,000. Again, it's a lot of information, but just trying to give you as much as possible, because I know you guys aren't down there every day seeing everything. So just trying to give you as much information as possible. If anybody has questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Bob Washoe has a question.
Yep, Bob,
Uh,
I was muted.
Excellent research and presentation, Megan. Thank you. A lot to absorb and a lot to say.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm assuming that SUNY and SLU have lead acid, have they gone to a newer machine yet?
I know SUNY has a lead acid. St. Lawrence just bought a brand new one, and I'm not positive if it's lithium ion or not.
So as SUNY's, is there any plan, do you know, for them to do any upgrades? Or what did SLU do with their backup one if they just went to ion from lead acid? Do they have a second one now?
No, so they traded it in.
They traded it in, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? John Tyo.
So Meg, if I'm hearing you correct, you and your staff would prefer a propane machine, correct?
We do, because the simple ease of being able to work on the machine ourselves. We don't live in a big city, so if we need to pay a certified Zamboni electrician to come work on it, we have to pay them the second they leave New Jersey, because that's where our rep is out of.
Yeah, and I know in the case of the Olympia, it's all GM parts.
Yep, it is a 1/2 ton pickup parts, and the back auger is all tractor parts.
Yep. Thank you, Meg.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Megan, on the warranty on these machines, does the warranty allow DPW to work on them while it is under warranty? I know some manufacturers that when you buy brand new, and there's a warranty with it, that it's only the manufacturer that can work on it when there's a warranty issue. Is that an issue with either one of them?
It would be for both of them. Yes.
It would.
Yep.
DPW would be able to do the work on them even if it was under warranty.
No, if it's under warranty, then yes. You have to
Then
get a certain
manufacturer's got to come and do the warranty whenever, and that's usually some of the problems that you run into with warranty, is that you end up sitting and waiting until manufacturer decides to come, get an appointment, come and do that. Okay, and then the other one question is, since it's a 1986 that you have, there is no electronics probably in that machine whatsoever. I assume the brand new one's going to be loaded with electronics.
So there's no electronics. Really, the only electronics are the lights on the current model. And the electronics on the new ones, they're all basically, I'm trying to think, probably about 1, 2, 3. There's only about 2 or 3 electronic buttons on the new ones. Everything else is more hand controls. If you go electric, you look at the dashboard and everything's button operated. You just go to a St. Lawrence game and you see them resurface the ice, and they've got 10 buttons on and they're only moving 1 lever. So
it's all hydrostatic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I would assume that there's electronic boards and whatnot in them, like everything else, whether it's your car, truck, tractor, whatever. There is going to be the possibility that check engine light's going to come on, and you're going to have somebody diagnose that. And I mean, I run into that all the time. It gets frustrating more and more, because where I used to be able to work on my equipment, it's very difficult to do it. So even though you're getting a new machine and it's a propane machine, technology today is an issue. And so just wanted to point that out. So, although some manufacturers, they will provide you with an app or whatever it is, and they can do diagnostics from afar. And so I would assume that is available. And if it is, I would think that you'd really want to consider that also.
Bob Santamar?
First, excellent job with this, Megan. Super presentation. I appreciate that. So kind of in line with Jim's comments, what are we, for whichever one we end up with, what are we going to do with the old Zamboni? Are we going to use that as a secondary, or is it going to kind of end up in a heap somewhere? Or
So the Olympia that we're using right now, we would save that as a backup. It's a good backup. It's been worked on for years. The electric Zamboni that is dead, I spoke with our rep that would be the person that we would trade it in with or anything. It is basically no price tag to it at all. I've looked it up. There's one 1999 electric Zamboni on the market on some, I think it's like governmentauctionbid.com or something. They're asking $12,000 for it. And in order to get ours up and running, they would put about 35 into it. So it's, because technology has changed so much just, since 1999. It's a huge difference.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Bob Washoe?
Yeah, you mentioned service coming out of New Jersey and manufacturing in California. Are those the same entities that serve the Canadian market, or are we limited to Zamboni Olympia USA and there's a whole nother corporate model just 40 miles away?
Correct. So the way that Zamboni and Olympia both work is that they have service stores in a certain area, and they cover your region. So it's basically like a contract based. So here's your home base in New Jersey. You have to go through them.
Even though there might be 40 Zambonis in Ottawa being serviced regularly by corporate.
Right.
That's tough.
Well, and I actually, there's a Zamboni boot camp that I wanted to send my staff to, but they only do it in Canada.
Okay. Well, again, thank you, Megan, for all this research and homework and, pulling it all together and presenting this. And, the board has to take into consideration the cost, right? And we did talk about that at the committee level about past planning of the village and town for issues like this. And John Tayo reminded the committee that when he was around, there was supposed to be a $5,000 budgeted item annually, both from the town and village. That's what he was told. So that when it came to this, that, the money would already have been budgeted. John, correct me if I'm wrong on that. The problem is, according to our fellow committee members on the rec committee, that doesn't seem to have been done. And when I first started here, there was a small amount of money under capital, but there was no documentation as to what that was for. And so the town board did choose to shut that account down and reallocate the money into the A fund, because there was nothing in writing, no resolutions about what John brought to us. John, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, the other thing, Bob and I were doing bills yesterday, and we had a little visit with the mayor because he had just come back from the pavilion. And he said something that I didn't really think of. Both you boards have put money towards batteries to that electric Zamboni. So perhaps some of that money that was earmarked went towards those new batteries. And that's something I didn't realize that had been done. So
Yeah, I do think that a few years ago, some money went towards batteries, and then also I think the rest of that, the funds that on the town side anyway, I don't know what the village had done, but you know, we ended up deciding to make good on past due bills on the pavilion floor. So I think those extra resources, so we weren't pulling it from an existing budget. Any other monies that were around, we used towards batteries and towards our contribution from the old, you know, the money that the town owned the village on the pavilion floor when that was upgraded over a decade ago or 15 years ago, whenever it was. So that money was earmarked, but it got used up pretty quick and then some.
Yeah, because I think the batteries in that electric, it would have been 4 seasons ago. That's when they died. That was the first time that it died, and they replaced them. And then the next season it died again.
Yeah.
But it was a different issue. So it was a different electrical issue.
So again, you know, we got to look at the finances and at the committee level, we talked about a possibility of fundraising to go towards this. We talked a lot of different things about the money. So, you know, we have a lot to consider.
As far as oh, sorry, Marianne, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, as far as I'm concerned, you know, we could certainly put this on the March agenda. Or if we need to have a special joint meeting, I'm not sure. Bob?
Well, I'm just, Megan, you said you're going to be presenting to the village next week?
Yes.
So I guess I just asked a question about process. Then once that presentation occurs, is the committee would get back together, do whatever brainstorming you need to do and come back to us with some sort of recommendation? Does that sound?
I think that's the way it would happen, Bob.
Okay.
We actually meet the 4th Monday of every month, so it would be after the village meeting, so we can meet as a committee and be able to report back to the board next month.
I think that'd be ideal. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks again, Megan. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, I am going to table the 2022 town goals. Again, I didn't have time to work on that as far as what I wanted to present. So I'm tabling that item. The next item is approval of up to $25,000 in culvert spending. This came from the Highway Committee. Bob Washoe, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Sure. I mean,
Please.
yeah, you know, we've got, there's actually a DANK website that we're part of that lists every culvert and every street sign in the town of Canton. It was a year-long project that happened a couple of years ago where everything was documented and DANK actually uploaded, and it's all now part of a database so that we have the year of the culvert, the condition of any road signs. So with that, I mean, we have hundreds of culverts all over the town and they go. So this is just an annual purchase of culvert inventory to have in stock for future projects or incidents when they arrive. And it because of the amount, right? Our procurement policy only allows the highway superintendent to spend up to $5,000 on their own without board approval. So this is a large order. So we're basically seeking board approval for them to you know, up their inventory.
And in some
Okay.
cases, it's not going to up the inventory very much. Is Steven still on?
Yes, he is. Stephen?
Yes.
What did the culverts for the one that had to be replaced because the steel culverts were rotted and the road was actually caving in? Replaced them over on Morley
Potsdam. Yes,
Yeah.
that was just about $10,000 last summer for that one project, just the pipes.
Just the pipes. So
Yep.
25,000 might not go very far.
No.
Okay.
How many culverts do we have that we know we need to replace or anticipate?
Right now, my main focus on road construction, I'd like to start on Pirates Russell this spring. Past employee told me that was paved the first year he started. That was 1987 or 1988 was the last time that road was attended to. And everyone on that road except for one is in dire need of replacement. So some of them, you know, we have done, but I don't find it to be beneficial to pave over a pipe that's questionable. It's better to do it now. And my goal this year is to start and have a list of what I would like to do next year and get those pipes done. Anybody that does earthwork will tell you that everything needs to set for a frost cycle to get settled out good. So that's a big goal of mine this year, to start that process so that we're a year ahead on our projects and that they can set for the winter and settle out.
I guess the other concern is supply chain issues, and actually plastic culverts aren't that easy to get. Maybe easier than a Zamboni or an Olympia ice resurfacer, but they're still back ordered. So
yeah,
we need to have them on hand.
Right now they're 2 months out, and that's only for belled pipes. Pipes without bells are unavailable currently from what our supplier has told me. We fortunately only use belled pipes, so that's worked to our advantage on that situation.
Okay, great. So I need a motion to approve up to $25,000 in culvert spending in the DB account.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Bob Washoe, second by Jim Smith. Any further discussion, comments, or concerns? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is public comment. This is a time for the board to listen to the public on any concerns that you may have. If you would be so kind as to identify yourself when you comment and where you live, that would be helpful for the record. So it looks like I think Toby has his hand up. Toby?
Thank you. I submitted today a proposal and petition from the residents of the Irish Settlement Road. They, Mian, and I canvassed our road. And once again, this is our third petition to finish the work on that road. Some years ago, approximately 5 years ago, the westernmost 6,000 feet was rebuilt from the bottom up. It's holding up very well. Previous road supervisor indicated that the next 6,000 feet needs to be done. It has received no attention in those 5 years other than throwing cold patch in the general direction of potholes. This road and I think we're here to say also from many people on the road that I talked to that the business of patching a piece of a road is very problematic. A project that never gets finished because it never rises to the level of completion is really, it's very hard to understand. I can't work that way in my business to do something part way and say I'll come back in 2 years and finish it. So I question the validity of working in that fashion and would urge the board to adopt a more finished product for these roads. The result of the inattention to this road is that we now have serious deterioration in front of at least 3 boxes, 912, 948, and at Highway 68, where there are dangerous potholes. I'm surprised the residents' USPS mailboxes haven't been taken out because of the way you have to dodge in front of their houses. So I come back to this problem that the town is making some small progress in putting more money to highways, but we need a comprehensive plan to do something about these roads. In 38 years of living in this town, I have seen only deterioration, not progress. And frankly, for us to have to do 3 petitions to the board, I'm frustrated and I'm tired of doing petitions. I would ask that this year we have a response as to when and how the road is going to be repaired. Secondarily, I'm taking my citizen hat off and putting on my Complete Streets hat, saying that I would remind the representative for the Complete Streets and the highway superintendent that Complete Streets would like to be involved in the discussion of what road projects are being done for this year. And we expect that kind of cooperation. We've not gotten to that point in previous years, but Complete Streets is not sitting around on its thumbs. We want to be a party to the discussion. So please let us know what we're going to see happen on the Irish Settlement Road this year. Thanks very much. And I assume you have the petitions. They went to the town clerk. I sent them to the highway department and to the highway committee. Thank you much.
Thank you, Toby. Yes, we received your communication at 3:30 this afternoon. It was forwarded to the full board. You know, the clerk does have it. And in looking at that petition, I think there are 30 names on that petition. I did a quick count on that. So it is part of the record now. And any comments from board members on this? Okay, well, the highway committee and the highway superintendent will take your, oh, Bob?
Well, I just did just one thing that I don't disagree with what Toby said, but I just one thing that I probably should have mentioned during the committee reports was that we did host the first ever meeting between Complete Streets and the highway superintendent. Now that we have a new highway superintendent in the position. And so those conversations and relationships have started and have only just started. There's still a lot of work to do and a lot of conversations to be had. But I think Toby agrees that we're taking it to a new level.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Anyone else? All right, thank you so much, Toby. I appreciate it. Is there any other public comment? Heidi, I'm not seeing anyone. Are you seeing anyone?
No.
Okay. With that being said, we do need to go into executive session for purposes of the proposed acquisition of real property and matters pertaining to the employment history of a particular person. I need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
So moved by Bob Stanamore. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bob Washoe. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Carried. Everybody else, thank you very much for attending. I appreciate it. Be safe out there and enjoy the rest of your week.
Good night.
Heidi,
I'm going to
Good
excuse
night.
myself for a second.
Good night.
so Heidi, you can stop